When I think of Mrs. Stuckey, I think of
the sun. The sun fights back the moon. Mrs. Stuckey fights back the wrong. The sun is bright and blazing. Mrs. Stuckey blazes with happiness and kindness. Finally, the sun helps us survive, and Mrs. Stuckey helps us live. Thank you, Mrs. Stuckey.
Her fight the cancer has made me feel brave. Mrs. Stuckey is the best.
I'd like to thank Mrs. Stuckey for being a great principal.
Thank you for making this a great school to learn in. Mrs. Stuckey is a strong principal and kind too. I know that Mrs. Stuckey is the best principal in the world.
My favorite thing about Mrs. Stuckey is
Kuwailati Mrs. Stuckey reaction by Poppy Hall Tamran Thomas got culture. My favorite thing about Mrs. Stuckey is when I get called down to her office to get my birthday.
Dear Mrs. Stuckey,
You have taught me to be brave in tough times and taught me how to persist until you accomplish what you need to do. I would like to thank you for always remembering kids' names, including me, because it really makes me feel special. I'd also like to thank you because you always know what to say at the right time to make people feel special. When I think of you, I think of a leader, a fighter, and a great person. I hope you feel better soon.
Miss Stuckey, you are the best principal ever.
All the kids loved to be around you. It was hilarious when you came outside at recess and played football. It was so surprising how good you are. It was so cool when you scored a touchdown.
Mrs. Stuckey, I think of
greatness and courage, flowing through a strong mind, hungry for innovation with imagination, the craving for learning, the love for learning, a kind and trustworthy spirit, the inspiration to learn, fighting on the inside, but still the best. When I think of Mrs. Stuckey, I think of the habits of mind, metacognition, managing impulsivity, finding humor, part of our hearts forever as our first principal, the one you never forget, laughing and joking with everyone, serious at times, enough to keep some chaos in order, knowing what to do, where to do it, and when the mind stirs up curiosity, forever loving her students, her children, who learn under her care, Mrs. Stuckey, a whale of a principal.
my favorite thing about Mrs. Stuckey is
That she is really nice and kind. She is also really smart and organized. She will not get angry with you, and she won't compare anybody with anybody else. Mrs. Stuckey does a lot for her students.
when I think of Mrs. Stuckey,
I think of strong, sweet, and joyful. If there was just one word to describe her, it would be caring. She cares for us, the staff, and our school. Mrs. Stuckey has been fighting cancer for a couple years. She's always kept me and our community happy. She can bring joy anywhere she is. Our principal, Mrs. Stuckey, keeps our school strong. She has taught me many valuable life lessons. She knows how to put a smile on every face she sees.
my favorite thing about Mrs. Stuckey is
She is so nice and welcoming. When I went here for my first year, I was afraid, but when I talked to Mrs. Stuckey, she was so caring and friendly. When I was done with the conversation, I felt like this was going to be the greatest school of my entire life. Thank you so much, Mrs. Stuckey.
we think Mrs. Stuckey is a whale of a principal.
I could not imagine not ever having Mrs. Stuckey and having somebody else at a different school. When I was in first grade, I came to Ireland. The warm welcome she gave was so personal, and she gave the same to each other family. I knew I would feel comfortable in this school. It makes my morning when I am walking to the playground and Mrs. Stuckey is standing on the corner greeting students and says hello to me with a radiant smile. She has a huge role in my family. I believe it should touch all of us and that we should look up to her in the way she decided to handle the situation she went through. I know I do. Mrs. Stuckey is part of the reason that the habits of mind came to Ireland School. With them, it has made my life more insightful and helped me with situations that I did not think to be able to deal with before. I have never met a stronger person, giving so much to the students in her care while she in her own life are having so much stress. I have learned so much from you, Mrs. Stuckey. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Mrs. Stuckey
For having a nice, kind spirit and heart. When she smiles at me, I all of a sudden feel that she is one of the best, kind-hearted people in the world. Mrs. Stuckey always notices new people and welcomes the new students to Highlands, a world of the school. If you ever meet Mrs. Stuckey, you will think she's so sweet and kind.
Mrs. Stuckey is the best.
More importantly, she is kind to
everybody.
Hey Mrs. Stuckey, it's Sam Waddell and Clark, and we're in our new house in Avon, Connecticut, across the country. Do you want to say the favorite memory?
Well, my favorite memory of Highlands was having Vader, and all the teachers would be afraid of him, and you would always come up and play with him and always say hi.
Hey Vader! And this is our new addition to the family. This is Bree. Say hi, Bree! Hi!
Renata Finling. I'm a freshman at North, and Mrs. Stuckey taught me to keep smiling no matter what life throws at you. And my favorite memory was just walking down the hallway and she'd know my name. Out of all the students, she'd know who I was and she'd say hi to me. And it's amazing how one person can have an impact on 600 students and more from previous years. It's amazing.
My favorite memory of Mrs. Stuckey is going down to her office on my birthday every year and picking out a birthday book, because it's something I always look forward to.
Hi, this is Corey. My favorite memory with Mrs. Stuckey is when I was in 2nd grade, and she invited me to have lunch with her during school one day, and it was one of my first days in Highlands, and I had just moved from Aurora, so I didn't know many people in neighborhood, and it was nice for her, and I still remember this today.
My favorite memory of Miss Stuckey is when she used to tease us about the Illinois basketball rivalry. She always used to tease us about Illinois making the NCAA tournament, not Iowa. Keep fighting, Miss Stuckey. Don't give up the fight.
And Susan, I loved how you always found a way to smile, even though the situation didn't always warrant a smile. You always made it through.